So welcome back, everyone. This is Psychic Development Level 5. This program this weekend is geared to helping you to develop your skills as psychic mediums. And so everything we do this weekend is going to be on a more advanced level than we've done up until now. The idea is to get you to the point where not only do you understand the process, you have a good grasp on it intellectually, but you also have a good understanding of what to expect from both your sitter or the client, whether you're doing a one-on-one reading or gallery-style reading. We want you, by the time you're done with this weekend, to understand how to present the information you're getting. There are many schools of thought that basically bring the information through and just, put it out there, and you're going to find that that's not really what I am an advocate of. I think that it's important to have your brain involved so that you interact with the client in the best way and don't end up with somebody running out of your room screaming and crying, and that they didn't get misinformation from you that you didn't know that they got. So we're going to hopefully give you the tools in this weekend to be able to not only do a good spirit communication reading, both one-on-one readings as well as gallery type readings or group readings. And we're also going to make sure that you understand the whole process so that you can walk out of these classes and not just be a good psychic medium, but know what you're doing and know how to work with the client in the way that's best going to help them. You have two clients in this process. You have the client who is the person in spirit, and you have the client who is the person sitting in front of you. And we want you to be able to handle both of those clients in a way that's going to create understanding and harmony, not in a way that's going to end up creating more discord than you started with. I want you to remember this, being a psychic medium is a very large responsibility. I hope you all heard me. It's a very large responsibility. It's counseling on a level that very few people on the planet counsel. And you need to take that responsibility seriously. Okay, you are, in a sense, you're the representative here on earth to the people in spirit. You're the representative for the people in spirit to the people here on earth. So you could almost look at yourself as a diplomat going between two nations, because that really is what you are when you're a spirit medium. You're linking two entirely different energy realms. You're linking them. You're not trying to merge them, you're linking them. And we're going to talk more about that, the whole process, the process of how to understand it, how to get your client to understand it, and hopefully everything that we did leading into last month where we introduced mediumship will really start to come together today. What I hope you did all month long, and this is where I expect you to be right now, is that you took the basics of what we learned last month, which was to know how to protect your space, to know how to keep yourself clear, to know how to put yourself into channel and keep yourself in channel, to know how to reach out to spirit to bring through the information, to know how to identify spirit, to take the time to take those steps, and then to present your information clearly and concisely. I do not expect you all to be great and wonderful psychic mediums at this point. What I do expect is that you took that information I just talked about and practiced all month long. When you're learning anything, you cannot become adept at it, you cannot become good at it unless you practice it. So one of the really big things that I want this particular class to do for you is to get you all past the fear of performance. We all have that, folks. You had that back in Psychic Development Level 1 when you did your first meditation and didn't know if you could still your mind. You had that in Psychic Development Level 2 when you did your first readings and you did health scans on people and you looked at their homes through remote viewing. And you said to yourself, oh, what if I don't do this right or well? It's easy now, isn't it? And it's the same thing with spirit communication. You need to do it in order to get yourself past the fear of performance. That's very, very important. And remember, over and over and over again, I'm going to be talking about ego, ego, ego. Remember from last time we met? The ego with the big E, which is the strong, higher self-motivated ego that we all need to be able to do our work well, versus the little teeny me ego, which goes through the realm of, wow, I'm Superman, all the way down to, oh, I don't know if I can do that, okay? And any of those extremes, we need to get rid of. Whenever you have that extreme, you're talking about the little ego, okay? Just for your information, and you're all going to get a laugh out of this, I hope, I am shy. Have any one of you picked that up? Do you know why you have mostly not picked that up? I mean, I'm painfully shy. I'm the hide under the table when you were a little kid shy. So how come you haven't picked that up? What happens when I'm teaching to you? I'm in my channel. And this isn't me, Sandy Anastasi, teaching you. This is my guides coming through me and teaching you. And when my guides teach, and Sandy is here too, I'm not gone, I'm not a trance medium, I'm here too, we blend. When my guides and Sandy are teaching you, I'm not shy. I can do anything that I need to do in order to get the message across to you. Because, you see, it's not about my ego. And that's where I need you folks to be. You can stand in front of a group of 1, or you can stand in front of a group of 3,000 and do the same great reading. Because, you see, it's not about you. It's simply about the work. It's not about impressing the client. It's not about getting past your fear. I still haven't gotten past my fear, folks. Every time I stand in front of a group, whether it's a group of 6 or whether it's a group of 1,000, I get the same butterflies and the same fear. And that's just my makeup. That's my personality. That's not ever going to go away. But am I letting it bother me? Am I allowing it to rule me? No. And I don't expect that to happen with you too, which is why I shared that with you. It's not about me. It's about you realizing that I, as Sandy Anastasi, am no different than you. And I've had to get past all the same fears and all the same worries and all the same concerns. And it's not about impressing my client with how great I am. And it's not about forcing myself to do things like jumping off a cliff that I might be afraid to do. It's about doing the work because the work needs to be done. Now, does that make sense to anyone here? Exactly. And those of you who are still here, after 5 months of this work, I know your heart's in it just like mine is in it. Okay, because you would not be here and you wouldn't still be doing the work because my guides and I are not an easy taskmaster. And if you're still doing the work, it's because you're pushing yourself past all of those personal ego needs. You know there's a bigger picture. And something inside of you has blended with that bigger picture to say, I have a job to do out there. Whether that job is working with my family one-on-one, whether it's working with people I know in my own condo or home, neighborhood situation, whether it's working with people professionally. Over the 35 years since I've been teaching these classes, actually I've only been teaching the spirit communication part of these classes since about 97. Okay, so here we are in 2012. How many years is that? About 15 years. So these are newer, but the entire system's about 35 years old at this point. So in all that time, why are we still teaching it? Why am I still reaching out to you? It's because we are all liaisons between us and the rest of the world. And in all that time, I have graduated many, many professional psychics. But I've graduated far more psychics and mediums who have gone home to enrich their own neighborhoods and gone home to enrich their own families. And that brings me to the concept of evolution. Folks, every single time one more person says, oh wow, there is so much more to this world than I used to think. There's a whole non-physical realm out there to explore. I didn't know it was right there. Every time another person has that realization, our universe grows a little bit more. And not only does the person who just woke up evolve, but the person who helped to stimulate that awareness also evolved. So you see, as psychic mediums, what do we do? What is our primary purpose, really? Remember last time we met, I said over and over again, it's about getting identification. It's about proof. It's when you're doing spirit communication, it's not just about the message. The message is important, but the person who comes to you as a sitter, who comes to you to learn, comes to you because they are saying, I want to know that my loved one is there, is still alive, that there is another world on the other side of the veil. I want to know that spirit doesn't die, that the soul lives forever. And through spirit communication, we can make this proof, provided we always take the time before we proceed with anything else to get identification, proof. It's not enough to say, I've got your mother in spirit. Someone who's channeling guides can do that. I've got your mother in spirit, she's giving me this information. Somebody who's a spirit communication expert, a psychic medium, can't do that. You have to say, I have a woman here. I think she's your mother. She says she's your mother. Her name is Carla, or something with a C or a K. She's got dark hair. She was about yay high. She wore high heels a whole lot. And she didn't like to wear her false teeth. She only wore them when she went out. Is that identification? Okay. So when we're doing spirit communication, our primary focus is going to be that identification so that we have the proof of what we are dealing with. We can prove that. And every time we do a spirit communication session and we say another one of those things that are totally off the wall that nobody else did except for your mother or your sister or your brother or whoever that person in spirit is, you have one more person who just woke up. And this is something that the religions of the world, whose purpose it was to keep that awareness alive through the last several thousand years, is in this last century failing on. They have become as focused on this physical world, this physical mundane realm, as most everybody else has. And so here we are as psychic mediums picking up where most religions are letting people down. Now, does this mean I want you to go around touting religion and pushing that down people's throats? Absolutely not. None of this is about religion. This is about pure physics. This is about the reality of the universe that we live in. Don't you love it? There's nothing religious about it. It is. You know, religion is about belief systems. We're not learning about belief systems here. We're learning about facts. The things that I am teaching you in these classes are. They exist. They're not imaginary. And as a psychic medium, you operate in that space between worlds when you are being a medium. You're the ultimate diplomat. And as a diplomat, nobody's really going to want to own you. Remember that. Okay? When you are acting as the psychic medium, you've stepped out of the physical realm and you're not in the spiritual realm. You're somewhere between the two, aren't you? It's an interesting way to perceive yourself. The ultimate diplomat. Okay? So, just as conclusion about this first session, what are you going to get out of today? We're going to do a quick review of the highlights of P4, the things that were most important. We're going to lock down the room. When I say lock down the room, I talk about protecting the room with the archangels. We're going to do that right away because I want to see if you remember it. Matter of fact, I might ask one of you to come up here and lead. Remember, it's not about ego, okay? And we're not going to lock down the room with the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram yet. We're going to just bring in the archangels. And somebody back in the back of the room has their hand up.
I just wanted to add that the lockdown is really good today.
Okay, that was Ron all the way from the back of the room telling us that the lockdown is really good today. And it really is true. I don't know if people who are watching this video can tell, but the room actually feels like it's got like we're in a thermos, like it's got a wall of air around it, an insulation around it. And that really is the way a good lockdown should feel. So we're already in a protected space, as we always are when we're learning, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be protecting it too. As a matter of fact, here's a secret. Do you know that I don't ever go into any space that I haven't personally protected before without carrying my own protection with me? I don't trust your protection. Ron's protection is great. John's protection is great. Your protection is great. I still don't trust it. I do my own. Now, what does that tell you? What should you all be doing? Your own. Okay? I mean, how do I know that midway through the morning, Ron doesn't get a special phone call and leave and forgets that he's attached to it and takes it with him? Am I going to count that doesn't happen? Of course not. I'm going to come to any gathering in my own protection. I always do.
Do you have a preference?
Mike, please. Yeah.
Do you have a preference? Do you do the same thing all the time, or does it depend on the situation?
It depends on the situation, really. Always, well, I have a series of protections that I normally do. For example, before I go to sleep at night, I will put myself in the energy balloon and I'll do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And I do that every night. Okay? And when I do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you see there are two different things. The energy balloon is internal. It's an internal protection. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is a room protection. And I put that lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram around my whole home. Or in this case, since I'm in a hotel room, I will put it around my hotel room, not to bring people I don't want into my own protection. Do you see? But I will do my own energy balloon first. So what I'll be doing is I'll be sleeping there next to my husband, right? Do I want to put him into my protection first? No. Supposing he's off doing something I don't want to be pulled into on the astral while he's sleeping. So I put myself in my energy balloon. I'm protected in my own cocoon, right? Then I protect my home. Lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Okay? And I use different adaptations of that same thing depending on what I'm going to be involved with. Certainly, if I'm going to a psychic development class where everyone is in various levels of psychic development and expertise, and there's a lot of extra energy, I'm going to do an extra strong protection because I don't want to be affected by the other people in the room, only by the person who's actually giving the instruction. You see? Kim, did you have a question, or is that just adjusting glasses?
I did have a question.
Okay.
So then what would your extra protection be for that event?
Well, here's the thing. Normally when I get up and I leave my home in the morning, it's just the energy balloon. I don't really need anything more than that. But if I'm going to a class like this one, I've already invoked my archangels and I've already done my lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram in my car, around my car, my personal space, before I come into the room. Then when I come into the room, I'm going to repeat the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram before I do my spiritual work, whatever work it is. Many of you who are trying to get practice with your readings, oh, this is going to sound mean, but I need to be as blunt as I can be. Many of you are going to be working in New Age stores, or in spiritualist churches, or in women's groups, or in the back of a beauty parlor, or a massage parlor. Believe it or not, there are certain types of businesses that really lend themselves to psychic readings. For example, women don't just like to get their nails done when they're getting their hair done. If there's a psychic in the back, they'll go get a reading at the same time. It works. It pulls together. And as you develop your own business, I'm assuming a lot of you will, you'll begin to search these places out that are open if you don't have a New Age store to work out of in your town, you see? And of course, the first place you're going to try and work out of, if they have psychic fairs, is your New Age store, your local New Age store. But supposing you don't have a local New Age store, well, maybe then you want to form a psychic fair network, which could be yourself and a group of other psychics who move from hotel to hotel to hotel and advertise psychic readings. You know, that's another technique that works. So I'm just throwing out some ideas of how you can get your business started. You know, being a psychic and a psychic medium isn't like studying to be a nurse. Okay, I got my nurse's degree, and now I can step out and go to apply to a doctor's office or a hospital or a chiropractor's office to work with them. Isn't that great? Those fields are already established. Being a psychic's not like that. You have to be either extraordinarily self-motivated to begin your own business, hanging your own shingle out, and not many people can do that. You see, I'm not training you to run a business. Incidentally, I should throw this out there. There is a great community online called LinkedIn. How many of you have seen that or participated? I highly recommend people join that. It's for business owners, and there are tons and tons of psychics and psychic mediums and healers who are on that, who are professionals already, and they're freely offering all of their ideas. At any rate, this class is not about starting your own business. And I only threw those comments out to tell you that it's not an easy thing to get this started. You're going to experiment with all different things until you find out where your niche is, what's right for you. But if you are one of those psychics who's working in someone else's environment, and that's going to be most of you, you really need protection. And that's why I said before, oops, I don't know if I should say this, but yes, I owe it to you to say this. We psychics are phenomenal empathic projectors, aren't we? Just like we are phenomenal empathic receivers, aren't we? And not all the other psychics that you're going to encounter in the local New Age store you just got a job in took these classes. Not all of them know how to control their abilities. So unfortunately, in the psychic community, when we are operating as a group, we are so lovey-dovey. We give off this energy of love that can attract 1 million people. But when we have personal stuff going on in our lives and we're not happy campers, oh, we shoot out this energy that could kill to everybody in a 5-mile radius, and we're good at it. So you can only imagine that if you're working in a New Age store and the owner of that store or the other employees don't do protections and don't know how to clear and don't know how to ground and don't know how to do all the things you've learned, you're a sitting duck for being in the eye of a hurricane, aren't you? Notice I said the eye of the hurricane. What is in the eye of the hurricane? Calm. You will need every single thing I have taught you, every single one of those things, if you want to step foot into an outside environment to do your readings. Take that as a warning, but also a blessing, because you'll find your best friends, the people of like mind, the people you can share with and who can fully understand you, are those other psychics. And they're also the ones who can rip you to shreds within 2 seconds if you're not protected. And you should see how much fun it is to be married to another psychic. And some of you may actually have that opportunity too. Okay? Yes, you will definitely need all of the protective techniques that you have learned if you're going to be successful in being able to continue the work once these classes end. Okay, there's another question happening here. Oh, Robert, we apologize. That must have hurt your ears.
Down at heart to the sense.
I didn't do a lot of practice with protections, just because I thought it was you only do it before you do a reading to protect your space. I didn't know that you could do it like
right.
daily.
And now
just
what
to
you
protect
should be realizing from the very first class, all the way back in Psychic Development 1, I have been teaching you how to protect with every single aspect of every single thing that you have learned. That has not been without just cause.
Now, like I do my energy balloon and my white light and all that. I do that daily, but that particular one with the archangels and the pentagram, I thought it was just for when you want to do your spirit communication, step into the light, out of the light, you know. That's all I thought that one was for.
And so I'm glad you're asking that question, okay? When you are doing your spirit communication, that is a must.
Yes.
Okay? But it is not exclusively reserved for them.
Okay.
Okay.
I was thinking this big whoosh would come through the middle of my house if I wasn't doing a reading. And
Here's the thing. Remember the difference. The energy balloon is a personal protection that's going to move anywhere with you.
Right.
Okay? The archangelic protection and the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram that we learned last month, those are room protections, space protections. Okay. They will not move with you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so when we protect this room, this space, and we walk out of the room, we walked out and left the protection behind.
Okay.
And once we get past, the day, remember, is divided into 4 groups of 6, okay? Dawn, noon, dusk, midnight. At each of those changes of the tide of the day, the protection will diminish. So when we protected this space that we're in this hotel, for a weekend, it develops a very strong protection. And we are protecting it in the morning, and we're protecting it when we come back afternoon, and we're protecting it again Saturday evening when we host a messages session. So during the weekend, this room, which is continually being layered, catch that with protections, develops a very intense, almost insulated type of a feel, which you are already feeling now. Mm-hmm. Why layered now? Because Ron's done his protection and John's done his protection, and I'm certain that Robert's done something of his own, and I walked in with mine. So you've got layers here already, okay? So what happens on Monday when we're not here any longer? Actually, what happens when we leave, when we all leave at 5 o'clock on Sunday? Because of 2 things. 1, the tides of the day at dusk hitting, and 2, all of us pulling the energy out. If you were standing outside of that door, you would feel this room go kind of like a flat tire. There would be some lingering effect, but by the time we got to midnight, most of the rest of that would be gone. Maybe the next morning, somebody walking by the door who was very sensitive might feel a little something, some lingering effect in here. But certainly by 6 o'clock the next morning, the next tide of turn, that would again change. And now the room would go back to feeling like a normal, ordinary conference room. Do you see? Now, remember, spaces that are continually, I'm going to use the term charged, will become charged with the energy that's utilized in them. This is an important concept. Way back when in the day, when John Mayers, who again I want to point to him, he's in the back of the room. Thank you, John, for being here and acting as my ground. I'm going to talk about that too. Matter of fact, John, would you come up here for a moment? Because this is important to explain. I love to put people on the spot, especially people who are wearing bright orange shirts. There's nothing shy about this man. Okay, I hope these 2 mics don't feed back on each other, so don't stand too close. John, of course, I introduced him last time we met. He is the person who helped me to develop the mediumship portion of these classes, and in fact, in the book that accompanies these classes, many of the exercises are the ones that he developed. So this is the guy. And Of course, he still does messages sessions, and he still does normally teach with me when I'm not taking over the sessions as I am in these, and so does Ron. Ron usually will teach the levels 1, 2, and 3 with me, and John teaches the 4, 5, and 6 with me. So there's a team teaching. For the purpose of our taping in these classes, I've decided that I wanted to present them myself, because then you only get my information. This is me and my guides being the control freaks that they are, okay? But under normal circumstances, when we weren't taping, you would see these guys working with me. I always have the teachers in my system team teach, and that's not just to make it more interesting for you. Number one, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to teach a psychic development class, because the teacher is in channel the entire time, and because guess what? Whoever's teaching that class, is using the energy of induction to help each one of you to raise your channel, and to help each one of you to be able to perform and do all of the things that we do. And so it's important for two people to be in the room teaching at the same time, because when one is doing the teaching, the other one is helping the channels to open and helping to turn on all the switches. So you see, John is not just sitting in the back of the room idle. He's been working this whole time. And in levels 1, 2, and 3, Ron was working this whole time. How many of you recognize that? How many of you were able to feel that energy? Good. And as we moved on with the classes, as your sensitivity developed, you would have been recognizing that even more clearly, that there's a connect going on between Sandy, the teacher up in front, and this guy in the back. There's a connect happening, but just what is it? What it is he's alternately acting as a ground, so that that energy constantly gets grounded, because you see, you folks are constantly connecting into my channel, and you're projecting your stuff. So my guides are sifting through that, determining what questions need to be answered, which I'm answering for you almost before you know you've thought them. And they're sifting through, and they're getting rid of all the little emotional dramas that we don't need in the room. And he is grounding them. So he's grounding them at the same time that he is connecting to each one of you and turning on the switches so that your use of the information can be complete. And that is the difference between being physically present in these classes and taking them on tape. We try to put that through into the video, but although you folks who are watching it on video can feel that going on, you have to actually be the one to tap into it yourself to be affected by it. We can't reach out to you to do it, because you're looking at it maybe 10 years after we've done this.
There's another. Oh, I'm off. Okay.
He said that. Did you hear him? He's off.
I'm off. I was off. Okay. There's another dimension to that, too, where you can't listen while you're talking. So if Sandy's teaching, then I'm going to be listening to what's coming across and how you guys are reacting to it. And if I feel something is missing, then I'm going to interject. That way we've got, I guess, a cohesive whole working together.
Now you would see more of that if we were both up here in front. In the back, for the most part, John and Ron have been, quietly observing, and only here and there said, hey, we need to talk about this. Okay? Now, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I wanted you to see who he was and understand how this whole thing works, so you understand the dynamics. It's a lot more intense than what you figured was really going on. Okay? Now, let's talk about the energy of a space that develops. You'll notice at home, everybody in here, do you have a favorite place that you like to sit and read? I don't mean psychic readings. I mean opening a book and read. You ever notice you gravitate to that place when you just want your quiet time and you want to really, really get into a book? Why is it so much easier to get into a book in that space as opposed to any place else in your house? It's because you have generated that particular mental energy in that space where you can relax, you can allow yourself to really get into that book, and your eyes are seeing images as opposed to reading words. You can really flow with the book, right? Well, in your psychic work, you found out it was the same thing, that when you wanted to use your pendulum, or you wanted to use a crystal ball, or you wanted to just work with reading auras with a friend, you found that if you sat at your kitchen table or at your desk in your office, that you always seem to have better results. What's happening is you're building up an energy, a mental and telepathic and empathic, emotional energy around that space. Okay. Now, if you can do that with something as energetically simple as working with a pendulum, how much more intense does this become when you are actually working with spirit communication? So, if you pick a specific area of your home, if you have an office and you pick a particular room in that office, if you are working in a New Age store and you are assigned a room or a corner, you're going to find that you only want to work in that particular room or that corner. You get very upset if somebody wants to move you to a different room or a different corner. Why? Because you, over time, generate an energy through doing those readings that makes it easier and easier to step into that space. Okay? Now, you also get people who do spirit communication so much themselves that they become the space. Here, for example, somebody like a John Edward, who travels all over the world, not just the USA, but all over the world doing spirit communication, and he does not always do his spirit communication in the same hotel. He'll come back to different hotels in the same city. So what's really going on there is he's created that light within himself. That's the ultimate. But to get to that point, to become the beacon, you've got to work, and begin to move that beacon with you. And I also have had a very interesting experience with John Edward, that when he came back to, or down to Port Charlotte, to my store back in the 90s, and John M. and I were running that business together, John Mayers and I at that time, he did a series of spirit communication readings in that store between 1998 and 2000. Do you believe you could have just gone over to Port Charlotte and seen him in little groups of 20? Okay, yeah. And I think he charged $35 a person. Yeah, you missed it, folks. At any rate, the thing is that here he was in that store over a period of 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 times a year, and he brought that light in. It's to the people on the other planes, somebody who's opening this channel. Think of it like a channel cutting through the fog between the planes, like a beacon. It literally sets up a beacon of light. And that person who is a medium is, when they are open to doing mediumship, when they have that channel open, they are a moving beacon. When they enter a place and they are doing that mediumship continually in the same place, that becomes a beacon. This is why you're already aware of this, those of you who have been doing these practice sessions at home, that you only want to work in that corner right now, because that's where it happens. Guess what's happening, you see? When you open your channel, that's you putting out a sign that says, open for business. And you've got a whole lot of spirits on the other side who are already accumulating out there, because even when you're not open for business, remember we had our room last time, we had all of our buttons, we turned them up high, medium, low. You had some that you just put into neutral, but you still had the button, okay? So even if my button is in neutral, the light's still up there shining through the clouds, it's just a little dimmer. So all those spirits who might want to communicate are sort of hanging out close to there. And as I get close to where I'm going to be opening up to communicate, the button starts to turn up a little more, the light gets a little brighter. Oh, now there's 2,000 of them out there waiting. Okay? This is one big reason why a psychic medium cannot be on all the time. You must have the turn-off switch. You must. How do you think, oh, forgive me, God, how do you think John Edward's wife would feel if in the middle of the night he pops up in bed and says, "Blip, blip, 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 that was a message from Fred," and goes back to sleep? How long do you think she'd stay with him? Okay? Any medium has to have an on-off switch. You have to be able to go home and turn it off and go to sleep. And you have to be able to totally shut it off. And any medium who says, "Oh, I can hear it all the time. I don't ever turn it off. I'm always open for business," is either putting it on for you because they want to impress, or they're one step short of a lockup, because that will drive you crazy after it drives your whole family crazy. Okay? So, yes, Robin.
The Long Island medium does. Have you seen her on
Well,
TV?
on television she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
And no, honestly, I haven't seen her.
Okay.
And Robin, I've got to tell you my honest feeling. I generally really like people. And I'm sure that if I met her in person, I would say, "Gee, you're a wonderful person. I like you very much." But I don't like what she's doing at all. It is very antithetical to what I am teaching. Folks, when I stand on line behind a woman in the supermarket who just lost her husband, and that loss, this is her body, and here's the energy that she's emotionally projecting, that's right out here in her aura, and I'm feeling it all around her, and she's projecting, "I just lost my husband." We all will feel that, won't we? Okay? Well, guess what? When I feel that, am I going to touch it kind of like zzz, and, "Okay, got your husband. I just got your husband, and this is the message he has for you." Blah, 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 blah. Am I going to do that to this woman? First of all, that could be just an empathic reading. Very common. Reading through empathy, reading the person in spirit, and that's not a mediumship reading. That's just an invasion of privacy, frankly. Okay? Or if I did connect with the spirit, maybe because of her emotional tension and fear, the husband really is hanging out around her and connects with me. Well, first off, in that particular situation, folks, all of us would feel it. You're all that sensitive at this point from the work you've been doing. But put yourself in that person's shoes. If you're online in the supermarket and you're feeling bereft, do you want this busybody standing behind you to tap you on the shoulder and say, "I'm getting a message from your husband"? "I'm getting a message, and this is what he's telling me, and this is what he wants you to do. Oh, and he's sorry he forgot to polish the shoes." Is that what you want? Does anybody want to comment on that? Honestly, in your dealings with people, when you're giving readings, it is a very good thing to stop thinking about yourself and to start thinking about the effect on that person. And if you were that person, how would you like to hear that reading? Robin, you had a comment.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, it's like a fine line, because some of the people that you see that she touches, they feel like they were validated by having that person around. On the other hand, there's boundaries. So it's like...
Robin?
Yes.
Do you want... I said this in an earlier class.
Yes, I know. I understand.
I
understand.
I can read. I'm not making this up, okay? If you are in line of sight of me, and I don't care if you're half a mile away from me, if you're within line of sight of me, or if you're on the other end of a telephone or a computer anywhere in the world, I've got you. I can read you. Now, you think I should start going through the phone book? What do you think? Don't you think that maybe there'd be about, maybe 80-85% of those people who'd be really thrilled to death? Wow, this is really cool stuff. Random readings, cool. What do you think? A lot of this is just purely common sense. You take the same ethics you have in dealing with people in your personal world, and you bring those ethics into working with people psychically. Folks, it's common sense. And folks, when I start going through the telephone book, you know that this is Sandy on an ego trip. Now, what gives me the right to read someone? Their permission, absolutely. Period. There is no other excuse, none. I don't care whether I'm in the shower and your husband is coming to me and I don't know who this guy is. And then later on I'm in the supermarket and I'm behind you and there he is and he's pointing to you. I have a message for her, I have a message for her. I don't care. You have not asked me to give you that message. So when I'm in the shower and this guy first comes knocking on the door, I'm Fred, I got to go talk to Mary. I'm Fred. I'm going to say to Fred, Fred, shop is not open. Bye. Okay? Robert.
Apropos that topic, I had an incident where a friend of mine who I know is a medium came to me during the party. Actually, she yelled across the room, "Does yes mean anything to you?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I said, "Okay, I'll talk to you when I can get closer to you," because I considered what she does, and somebody must be coming through. And my uncle has just died like a week earlier. And she tells me, there is this guy standing next to me, stomping his foot in the ground and adamantly telling me, "Tell Robert yes, tell Robert yes." So just to get rid of him, she did it. So sometimes the request may come from the other side,
yes.
But do we do anything about it or not?
That's what we call, Robert, being a victim of spirit. Thank you. Remember I told you about that little lamp on the other side, the lamp in the fog? Well, all of us can, if we're psychically sensitive, we all have a little lamp, and, Uncle Herman and Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary, the ones that we connected with personally when they were alive, can come and look at that little lamp. But when a lamp gets really big, when you use it all the time to talk to people that you don't know on the other side, that lamp gets really large and really bright, okay? And now you end up with 50 people out there hanging around just waiting for shop to be open, or waiting for you to lower your boundaries for just a couple of minutes so they can, I want to talk to Wilma. Go get Wilma. I'll show you where she is in that phone book. That's being a victim of spirit. Spirit is not supposed to be pushing you around. Your shop is open or it's not open, okay? And if you want to end up being disliked or at the very least looked at as a freak by everyone that you know, go ahead, keep your shop open all the time. And if you do that, folks, that's about your ego. It's about your ego. And ultimately, that ego-centered need to be available all the time, to be needed by spirits and people at the same time. Wow, how great is that? Everybody needs me. Well, guess what? Being needed on that level puts you in a mental institution. It is inevitable. And before long, you would want to become a hermit. You would not want to go outside of the door at all, because you'd be hiding from all those people. Because as soon as you walked out the door, all their spirits would be after you to give them messages. You see what I'm talking about? Okay? Now, yes, another comment.
A question. What is your impression about guides helping with this situation? Because sometimes I think, because I'm new, I forget to shut down, but I feel like my guides kind of keep everybody at bay, and only really important messages might come through. It's almost as they only let the super important ones come through, and it's usually in a form of a song, so I'm not even actually dealing with spirit. But can we ask our guides?
Yes, and thank you for the feedback. Everybody applaud. Very good. Because whether you consciously learned it or whether you unconsciously learned it, that's exactly what this program is supposed to help give you. You got it. Did you hear her? Would you please repeat that so that everybody hears how it's working for her? Because that's the evolutionary process that we want.
Okay, John just said before that we can't hear when we're speaking, so I don't really know what I said. I think
that'll teach you to listen to yourself.
Okay, so I know I had a question about the guides because I forget as a novice to close up shop. And I think that my guides do it for me. And then I have asked them to please make sure nobody comes through unless it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I ever get a breakthrough is in the form of a song, and then I know somebody's trying to reach me, and then it's my choice as to whether I want to go through it or not. So I just wanted to make sure that we can ask our guides, and
for
they'll
you,
step in.
absolutely. And for you, the songs are your guide's way of communicating to you. Somebody wants to talk, somebody wants to come through, or this is a time where you need to pay attention. And that's your own symbol for that, and that's good. Now, should you count on your guides to hang out the shingle all the time or to turn it on and off all the time? No, that's ultimately your responsibility. But you are still a beginner, you're still learning, and yes, your guides, we encountered our guides first. We made the connection to our higher self, we made the connection to our guides. We brought them in before we ever opened our channel. We brought them in before we reached out to connect with spirit outside of the channel. Okay? Yes, this is the natural progression of how it's supposed to happen. Eventually, you're going to just be doing these protections on your own because you're so aware, you're doing them all the time. And at that point, your guides, they're still going to be there, but they don't have to be as interactive. Okay? I.e., that's still your job. But yes, you're getting the protection along the way. So thank you for sharing. Because everybody, our viewers as well as you folks, you need to know that. Okay? So what normally would happen? I got Fred in the shower, said, Fred, go away. Shop is not open. Now I'm in the supermarket. There's Mary online, obviously projecting hurt and pain, lost her husband. All of a sudden, there's Fred timidly knocking on the door. I know you're not open, but please. I kind of hear it as a distant echo. Very easy to ignore, right? So, as Mary's putting her stuff on the supermarket counter, I reach into the basket and I help her. You look like you're having a sad day today. You doing okay? Well, yeah, it's lonely these days. Oh. And why is that? Oh, my husband just died. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. What are you doing for yourself that's going to help these days? Well, I don't really know. I just feel so lost. Did you ever think about maybe going to a psychic medium? Is that something that you would do? Is it in the realm of your belief system? Well, I don't know. I don't know about that stuff. I see it on TV, but on TV it just doesn't seem like it's real. It seems like it's all put on. Well, sometimes I get information from the other side, so I know it's real. And if you're interested, I could try and see if there's a way that we could connect with your husband. Do you see that? There's a carrot. She says, oh yes, could you? Door's wide open. Now, is in the supermarket the place to do this? No, for God's sake. All that is ego. Everybody look at me. Wow, what I can do. Let's say, well, you could come to my house or I could go to yours, or if you want, we could find just a quiet place. I know a bench outside. This isn't to impress other people. Did that answer your question, Robin? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and thank you all of you for bringing this up and for talking about the Long Island Medium. I have mixed feelings about that show. On the one hand, part of me says people in general tend to be so dense and so guarded that when we bring a show like that out that says, well, just anybody could do this, anytime, anywhere, there's a reason. People do need to know that the spirit world is just one step to the side. It's right there all the time. And in that sense, that show is good. But in the devaluing people's privacy, in the total lack of values and ethics, it's very bad. And there's also absolutely no, and this is big for me, there's absolutely no indication on any of these programs that the medium has done anything at all to protect themselves, to study, to open a channel. There's no technique involved. And as a result, we are going to have a generation of children growing up who say, "Come and get me, I'm ready to hear." Oh boy, what a problem that's going to be. Because there are a lot of things that are on the other side, some human, some not human, that we really don't want to connect with. And just because somebody died didn't make them a good person. You remember in the last week I told you my first interaction with mediumship was connecting with that woman's father who was a snitch for the police. Remember I told you about that? Well, that particular issue was necessary for me to go through, and I was protected at the time, by the way. It was necessary because it got me over the fear of connecting with quote-unquote bad people, because that's about the worst person that I ever would have connected with. The thing is that as long as I was within protection, I was not at risk. Do you see that? If I hadn't been in protection, you better believe that woman's father would have tried to jump into my body and take it over. He was not a nice person. Okay? So just because somebody that we loved passed doesn't mean that that person who's passed is on a spiritual level that they're going to deal with you or the living person they want to connect with in a positive way. So your protection is not just to prevent, the evil entity or the black magician or all the things that you see in all the movies from jumping in and taking over or manipulating or controlling you or your client. It's also so that you can keep separate from all those things that could negatively influence. And nowhere on television, nowhere do I see that being taught or shown. Nowhere. And that really and truly is a danger. Okay? So folks, all of you are going to have your hands filled because you're going to have all these young people who are saying, "I can do blah," and it is egotistical. "Wow, look at what I did." And you're going to have to say, "Well, it's really nice that you did that. Now, would you learn how to be able to control it? And I can help you." You see, that's what these classes are all about. I have as many people come to take these classes who are already mediums, who are trying to learn to turn it off or control it, as I have people who want to develop the skill. Isn't that amazing? And it really and truly is because of so many of those television shows. Okay? And thank God for guides. Because there are also a lot of wonderful people out there who have very good guides. And sometimes, there's an old saying that, God helps both the innocent and the stupid. Or is it the foolish? At any rate, thank God, because I think a lot of us are dabbling in things we shouldn't be. But, our guides jump in and say, "Oh, we better help big time here." The thing is, we really need to be careful we're not testing their limits. Otherwise, they may just decide to throw us to the wolves and let us learn the hard way. Okay? I would like to take a break. This is a good time. Hit the bathroom, whatever. It's a morning period, so that would be a good thing. When we come back, we're going to lock down the room, bringing in the archangels, and then we're going to do an opening meditation. So let me see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.